Here are some thoughts on reason and faith. The word reason is used to cover a broad range of human intellectual abilities, of human intellectual capacities. Most relevant is our capacity to form beliefs for good reasons, that is, on the basis of evidence. Not only is it descriptively true of humans that they are capable of rational belief formation, but this sort of belief formation is generally regarded as normative. That is to say that in belief formation we generally regard evidence sensitivity as a norm or standard to be followed. Departures from what are criticizable or blameworthy. It is in most circumstances considered a defect in rationality to come to believe that P without good reasons for believing that P is true. And even if P does happen to be true, we would never say that a person who came to believe that P is by a defective route knows that P. Perfectly reasonable persons may have hunches that P, but they do not believe that P, and act on the basis of P unless they find good evidence that P independent of their hunches or gut feelings. There are a great many different religions as well as different and various points of view within each one. A philosopher who is making very general comments, therefore, cannot pretend to be able to define concepts to everyone's satisfaction. Moreover, philosophy does not presume to take the place of the detailed study of the various religions. It is nevertheless possible to pick out concepts from their more concrete contexts and to define them in generally acceptable ways. In this spirit, then, I define faith as a set of beliefs, at least some of which are not supported by evidence, or at least go beyond the available evidence. For many religious persons, faith is not something that a person could come to have by sifting through evidence. Rather, faith is viewed as a gift from God, as something essentially non-rational in character. Does the person who has religious faith violate norms of rational belief formation? Is faith in fact a form of irrational belief formation? Given a definition of faith as a set of beliefs, some of which are not supported by evidence, it is hard to see how faith can fail to violate norms of rational belief formation. Interestingly, not all religious persons react the same way to the suggestion that faith is irrational. There is what might be called the "so what" response, and also what might be called that "it isn't really true" response. Many religious persons are happy to admit that faith is irrational. All they claim is that the beliefs constituting their faith are true. These are not beliefs that one could have arrived at by natural reason or by unaided human reason, however. So much the worse for rational formation. This was the attitude of Tertullian, an early church father. Dates around 160 to 220 or so CE. The early church father who said, "Credo quia absurdum." I believe because it's absurd. I believe because it is non-rational. I believe because it's irrational to believe. If you believe that your faith provides you with those beliefs necessary for eternal salvation, then you may not worry much about rationality. You will admit, perhaps, that you cannot persuade someone who is not lucky enough to share your faith to accept the truths of faith by purely rational means. Certainly, in ordinary life, how certain we are about something will normally depend on our assessment of the available evidence. Religious persons generally regard faith as making all the beliefs in the set of beliefs constituting their faith as absolutely certain. It is for this reason that religious persons will claim not merely to believe, but to know the truth, to know the truths of their faith. It therefore turns out that to know, knowledge, and related words and phrases are all quite ambiguous. Knowledge, for example, can mean either justified true belief, or it can mean maximally certain belief. Note that these are obviously related, since apart from the special case of faith, being maximally certain is a consequence of being justified. Many religious persons do not accept the idea that faith is irrational. There are three main ways in which a charge of irrationality can be evaded or qualified. Number one, the religious person may claim that, although we should generally follow norms of rational belief formation, we need not and indeed should not when it comes to faith. Faith is thus viewed as non-rational or possibly even super-rational rather than irrational. Secondly, the religious person may point out that many things in every area of life are taken on faith or believed on trust. We all accept things from authorities that we could not ourselves derive from available evidence. All this, it is claimed, is natural, inevitable, and perfectly reasonable. Note that this leads to the further question of whether we have, in picking our authorities, acted rationally or not. And thirdly, the religious person may hold that many important components of faith are rational by normal standards. It is rational to believe in God. It is rational to believe in a supernatural realm. It is rational to believe that God would provide a revelation for our guidance. And it is rational to believe that the Bible is that revelation. This can all be true even if some of the things the Bible tells us, and which we believe because we believe the Bible is God's Word, go beyond anything that reason could establish. This is a view that sees reason and faith as cooperative, as complementary, rather than as antagonistic. Thus, reason leads us to faith, and faith takes us further than reason could ever take us.